Today we're talking about a pretty OG champion inside the game that still gets a lot of love from people using him, and that is going to be Leorius the Proud, the Lion, inside the game. And now, of course, I know he's not as OG as a lot of champions, but in terms of nukers, it feels like forever that he's been at the top of my most wanted list. And I finally pulled this guy a few weeks back. I did post a screenshot of it on my YouTube feed there, of course, for you guys to check out. I finally just got his masteries finished up last night, so I was able to build him out, and we can now do a little showcase and a guide on this champion. So I'm very excited to be bringing this to you guys. I think he's going to help progress my account in a lot of different ways, especially inside the arena, of course. And we're going to go ahead and talk about why and how I'm going to be using him. So here he is here, an absolutely fantastic looking gentleman, a very unique design, certainly. Let's go ahead and take a look at his skills. He has no books yet, by the way, so we're doing this showcase without books. This is going to be the most free-to-play or low-spender relevant video, essentially, because this will give you a fairly accurate interpretation of how he's going to look on your account. So his A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, each hit having a 60% chance of placing the big version of decreased defense. Damage increases by 20% if the target has less than 60% HP, which of course they should after that initial hit. Having somebody who can debuff while doing damage is absolutely incredible. This particular skill as well does have a 1.65 times attack multiplier, which earns it a strong rating according to Hell Hades. Of course, that is going to be times 2, so we have just over 3 times attack there, about 3.3 I believe. We have an A2, Rage of the Pride. This champion is going to attack all enemies 2 times, fairly basic, but it has a passive effect attached to it, and this is part of what makes Leorius so special. So this champion is immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, petrification debuffs when this skill is not on cooldown. So this is absolutely sensational. Really, the only CC or the only control effect that he's not immune to these days is going to be, of course, the Enfeeble. But of course, you're really only going to be seeing the Enfeeble debuff from somebody like a Marius, so you can kind of anticipate that and counter it. Now, this particular skill does have a 2 times attack damage multiplier, so that's giving us a 4 times attack overall, considering that we have, of course, the 2 times hitter. Now, we do have an A3 as well, so he's going to attack all enemies with his awesome roar. Has a 100% chance when booked, and 80% chances we'll be running him today to place a true fear. Before attacking, has 100% again booked at the 100% land rate. Today it's going to be the 80% of placing a weaken. So essentially he's placing a weaken prior to the nuke, and then he's also placing the true fear. Now, all these debuffs can certainly make Leorius a bit of a magnet for polymorph, so we'll kind of see how that affects him today. He does also have a passive, which gets absolutely incredible, and it makes this guy so much better. So True Grit is going to instantly place an unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn before receiving a fatal hit. And the passive effect is the damage is going to increase as the champion's HP decreases. So that's going to be by 1% for every 1% of HP lost. This is absolutely fantastic. This essentially allows him to just stay alive with that unkillable buff, and it's going to allow him to, excuse me, to do more damage based on how much damage he's actually taken, right? So kind of doing a double-edged sword there, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, I did also forget to mention his awesome roar. A3 has a 3.85 times attack multiplier, which also earns a godlike rating on the Hell Hades website, same as the A2. He has an aura of ally crit rate in all battles by 24%. Annoyingly, I am still struggling against a bit of a cough, so if there's some pauses or chops in the video here, you'll know why. Let's go ahead and talk about blessings. So for a low awakening, since he does have a lot of debuffs that he's placing, I am going ahead and running him inside Nature's Wrath. Now, I do have him 2-star awakened, which means he is going to get that plus 750 attack, which really helps out the build. If you can get this guy to a 4-star awakening where you get that crit damage, and then certainly also a 5-star where you're going to get the resistance, importantly, that's also going to help out his build, because the thing is his unkillable can still be cleansed, right, or removed rather. So somebody like a Sun Wukong works pretty effectively against Leorius or any sort of a buff stripper. And then, of course, when he doesn't have this, or when this is on cooldown rather, he is, of course, going to be susceptible to CC debuffs as well. So just something to consider. Now, this guy could be a decent Armand's counter, apart from the fact that his turn meter gets stolen, of course, right? So if you have some way to really work around that, he could certainly help out. Running him with somebody like a Freya in your team could be pretty interesting, right? Just ensuring that he gets that instant turn, essentially. Let's go ahead and take a look at how he's built here. So we're going to be running him inside the Dragon's Lair for his damage test, so you're going to get an idea of how he's looking there. He's going to have 51,000 HP, 62, almost 6,300 attack, which is high, don't get me wrong. This is some of the best gear on my account, but I do think that this is going to be attainable for most late game players. He's going to have 267 on the speed. Now, he is very speedy on my particular account, but you could also build him incredibly slow, so that he essentially just soaks up damage, and then his passive is going to increase your damage, of course, as well. 102 on the crit rate, 251 on the crit damage, and then only 218 on the resistance, so I wasn't able to build him with a whole lot of resistance, and he does have 181 on the accuracy as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the gear set. So he is built out in one piece of stone skin, not really intentionally, it's just kind of, it is what it is. He does have lethal, which helps out the crit rate as well as the ignoring defense. He has one piece of Pharaoh, which is coming from the ring, which gives him a bit more accuracy, and he does have one piece of Supersonic, which comes from the banner, and it gives him a little bit more resistance. So this is essentially how the gear is going to look here. Again, I always mention this in my showcases, but if you had the chest plate at level 6 with an attack ascension on there, you'd certainly get some better damage. And then ideally, obviously for late game, you'd probably want attack boots with a speed substat ascension, or kind of the inverse too, just depending on what your particular account needs. Very nice piece here, though. Of course, it'd be a little bit better if this was attack percentage, but of course, considering it's shield, you can't actually get attack stats on the shield, same as you can't get defensive stats on the weapon. So a little bit of knowledge there for you if you didn't know it. Now, I have been forgetting recently to showcase the masteries on my champions, so we're going to go ahead and rectify that on this video. We have what I would consider fairly basic nuke masteries, so I'm going to go ahead and move out the way. He does come down to Kill Streak, and then of course he does come down to Helm Smasher there for his tier 5 and his tier 6 respectively inside the offense tree. Now, I do also have him built out inside counterattack masteries, so that if he's losing a lot of HP, he's essentially going to have a chance to go ahead and counterattack, or of course if my team is getting CC'd, he's going to counterattack as well. Now, of course, if you don't want to build him with counterattack masteries, you could easily get some use out of course, your accuracy, as well as something like a Master Hexer, just to increase the duration of the debuffs that he plays. Importantly, I did also bring him with Grim Resolve, so that he's going to get an extra boost of HP when attacking with 50% HP or less. He has Ruthless Ambush, so he's going to go ahead and do more damage on the first hit. And then he does have Opportunist, where he's going to increase the damage inflicted to anybody with CCs. So if you're bringing him with CCs in your team, that is essentially going to help you out quite a bit. As you can see, everybody loves him. The lowest rating he has is like a 4.2, which says a lot about this particular champion. So let's go ahead. Let's first of all hop into Dragon, of course, and see what he is capable of. As normal, we're going to go ahead and approach Dragon Stage 20 here. This will be kind of the stage that we take him into. We are going to bring an Arbiter for the increased attack. We're going to bring Leorius, of course. We're going to bring in somebody like a Lydia as well. And then we should be pretty much good. All things considered, we have the increased attack, decreased defense, and weaken, and then of course his skills there as well. So let's go ahead, let's do some runs here and see what we can make happen. These are of course all Void champions too, which certainly makes their damage testing a little bit easier. We're not going to get weak hits or anything like that, which is quite nice. So let's go ahead, let's take it off auto here. We're going to buff him up. I did rebuild my Lydia recently too, so she is faster than my nukers, which is quite nice. So now we're going to go ahead, excuse me, we're going to go ahead and open up with the A1 here and just see what we're capable of. So let's go ahead and hit the Apothecary here. We're actually attack the Warden instead, so let's go ahead in with the A1. Boom, boom, we do about 58 and 41k respectively on a 2x hitter, which is pretty nice. We're going to go ahead, we're going to boost up the turn meter a little bit more. We're going to get like a block active skills on the Apothecary, all those sorts of good things. Go ahead and get the OE coming in from Arbiter, and now we can circle back around to the other skills. So it's going to be a bit hard to test him in PvE, of course, for his damage increase, right? So we're just going to have to kind of use these skills as is. Let's go ahead and use the A2, though, where he hits everybody twice. Boom. And we get about 56k, 64k each hit, so nothing too crazy there. Let's go ahead, let's end the battle here, and then let's go ahead and try this one more time. So we're of course going to buff up with everybody, decrease defense and weaken. I won't lie that those damage numbers are a little bit disappointing, but you do have to keep in mind, of course, this guy scales with his damage taken. So let's go ahead, let's hit the A3 here. Boom! He's going to slam everybody for anywhere between about 86 to 120k. Now again, he doesn't kill a single enemy on Dragon Stage 20 with these stats, which might make him look like a pretty poor champion. But we're going to go ahead, we're going to showcase him inside the arena where he's really going to shine, and we'll see what he's capable of here. So kind of the downside to this, at least in today's meta, kind of like I mentioned already, is of course we do have a lot of Sun Wukongs present here, and Sun Wukong is going to counter him pretty efficiently, right? So I don't actually recall if he's immune to block pass or block active skills, which he's not, so this Hegemon might be a bit of a pain. We'll go ahead, we'll keep UDK in here. We'll bring Leorius as well. We'll also just go ahead and bring in survivability, essentially, right? Because we're essentially just hoping for them to go first and just absolutely nuke us down. We'll bring in somebody like a Marichka. Of course, I know a lot of people watching this aren't necessarily going to have her, but it is what it is. We're going to go ahead and bring in our Lydia as well. That way, if somebody dies and they try to revive on the enemy team, we can essentially just go ahead and revive as well, because of course Marichka's revive is very much situational. So somehow we're faster. We're cutting in here, which is a bit of a shame. They're cutting in now though, which is nice. The buff got removed from him, which would just be the increase, God, I can't think of it, the accuracies and whatnot. So we'll go ahead, we'll do the AoE here. Boom, we take down everybody except Arbiter. Now, this team was incredibly slow, so we didn't actually get to see him in action, essentially, with taking down, like having his HP tick down there. So that is a bit of a shame. Excuse me. Something like this might work pretty well. Really, the only downside to it is that Nishak is going to also place the decrease attack, so we'll kind of see how that affects his damage output as well. And we could, of course, go ahead and try to cleanse with our Marichka. He doesn't get the decrease attack. I thought he placed the decrease attack. Maybe I'm crazy. We kind of just want to go in maybe with the A2 here, although if we do the A2, of course, he's not going to be immune to CCs. We don't really have too much for CC coming from the enemy team, though, so we might just go in with the A3. Boom! We don't actually kill anybody, not even the Nishak there, which is incredibly disappointing. I shouldn't have cleansed either, because that would have brought his HP down a little bit lower. Let's go ahead and see if we can do some damage to the Arbiter there. I'm actually very surprised by how slow everybody is. This is Gold 5 after all. And my Lydia is only running at about 300 speed there, so it's pretty crazy. But let's go ahead and hit those AoEs. We do take down everybody except the UDK now. I must say, I am certainly a little bit disappointed with this damage, in all honesty. He's built out very good stats. He has full masteries. There's not really a way that I could make him better, and it's just a little bit of a shame he's not doing as much damage as I thought he would. Now, again, we're not setting him up correctly with the destroyed HP. I just can't really seem to find teams currently that are going to allow us to facilitate that a little bit better. Let's hit a refresh here. This could work very well, actually. This will be perfect. I don't remember if he brings in a block buffs. I don't think he does. No, he doesn't. He does bring in some CC, though, which will be perfect. Excuse me. Perhaps we'll bring in a Cardial or something like that instead, just so that we can slow it down a little bit there. And, of course, the Lydia is not going to interfere or cut in. That being said, though, one thing to keep in mind and consider, he was essentially getting decreased defense across a lot of those fights, and of course he wasn't really doing anything still that would help out a whole lot. So we'll go ahead and ally attack into the Arbiter here, which will give him increased crit rate and crit damage as well. He does manage to take her down at least, which is good. Let's go ahead. Let's hit the AoE here with the A3, and he does have decreased HP now too, so we should be seeing essentially a lot more damage out of him. Let's go ahead. Boom! He's going to hit for about 82k there on the Lysandra. I must say, guys, I am incredibly disappointed with this so far. Now, I get he is only 2-star awakened and all those sorts of good things, but still, that's not a whole lot of damage, all things considered. There's certainly other damage dealers that are going to do something fairly comparable, and they're not requiring all that setup either, right? So that is, it's interesting. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad champion by any means. I am certainly glad to have him, and I wouldn't ask for a different champion instead. But, my god, I have a right to be disappointed as well. That was my Void Legendary that I pulled after all. So, let's go ahead. Let's bring in maybe just an Ancora for a bit of a cleanse there against the bombs. We do have, of course, Marichka, who's going to be able to place the block damage on us as well there. Which isn't the best necessarily, because that means that we're not really going to take too much damage from it. We'll go ahead and shield up here. We're faster. We cut in with this champion. Let's go ahead and hit them with the A3, of course. Boom. We don't take down anyone, not even their weak little Gaius the Gleeful there. We do, of course, get some fears out there, though, which is quite nice, and we do resist the block buffs coming in from the Wukong. Excuse me. Now, we'll go ahead and not do that. I didn't mean to do that, actually. So let's go ahead and just smack in here. He has lost a little bit of max HP. Let's go ahead and hit. Boom. We don't manage to kill anyone. What is going on? He has Helm Smasher. He's Void Legendary. He has HP lost. He's got full masteries. He's got a good gear set. He's got damn good stats. He's 2-star awakened. What is happening? Why is this guy doing, like, no damage? I thought certainly we'd be able to take down the Sun Wukong on his own. Now, let's go ahead. Let's try something here a little bit different. So I want to run against this team. We'll take out Leorius. We'll do basically a speed team in here. So we'll do Eostrid. She is going to apply the Weaken, though, which does give a bit of a leg up. We'll bring in our Ava, who is built out relatively similarly. So she's going to have, you know, 6,200 attack. Basically the same exact stats across the board there. And let's see if we're fast enough just to get in here, right? So I want to kind of compare it to another damage-dealing champion that I have on my account, and we'll just see what the difference is. So boom, we decrease everybody's turn meter, and then boom, we actually come in and just wipe them out. Now, again, keep in mind that, sure, you could argue there was the Weaken or whatever, but at the end of the day, Leorius placed the Weaken as well, right? And we one-shot that entire team with no defense down or anything like that, whereas Leorius struggled to get really any damage against it. I don't know how I feel about that. This team should certainly give us a chance to go ahead and essentially test him while having nobody else alive. So we are going to bring in the Eostrid. We're going to bring in the Marichka for a cleanse and whatnot. And then we're going to bring in a UDK as well, just for a bit of survivability. Now, this team is extremely high awakening. This team is extremely built. I expect that they'll go first. We won't be able to cut in, and I expect that they'll do some decent damage to us. Let's hope that I'm not wrong. Eostrid does sit down, unfortunately. We have Taurus come in. He absolutely slams us. Excuse me. So now, this is where we'd expect to see some big damage. This is essentially the best setup that we can possibly have, where we have 3 squishy champions and then 1 tanky champion, but it's whatever. And he has lost basically all of the HP that he possibly can. This is the best setup for Leorius. Let's go ahead and let's see how he hits. So let's go ahead. Let's hit with the A2 where he has a chance to place the Weaken on himself. Let's slow it down and come on. AoE, a little bit better damage. We did 106k there, I think I seen to one of them. Certainly better damage than we had before, that's for sure. So he does scale quite a bit, of course, with having his HP lost. Let's see if we can get that decreased defense. We do, that's perfect. Now, of course, Taurus, annoyingly, is going to decrease our attack every time we hit him too, which is a bit of a shame. We'll get that A2 in there. We do about 24k, all things considered. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot help but feel a little bit disappointed with this. This is a damn fine build on Leorius, and the damage just doesn't really match. And we've seen it in PvE as well. Now, again, I will say, he wasn't scaled properly a lot of those fights, right? He hadn't lost HP. That's kind of his specialty. So you could make that argument for him. But, my god. Let's go ahead and run against this team as well. We should be able to get a turn before the Odin puts up the block damage. This will be essentially our last team to test here as Guardian Judgment comes in. Now, I don't want to use the extra turn mechanic because that's going to get the block damage up for them quicker. Come on, cut in, please. Gonna go ahead and just slam in. So he does a little bit more damage there, 56k. And of course he does get the ally attack with our Marichka as well, so we take them down. Now, all this being said, this is a showcase on the champion, not really, you know, the be-all, end-all technical specification discussion of him. So this is just my thoughts on the champion, essentially. Again, a little bit disappointed, but I can certainly see his use case, and I will certainly be using him myself, especially inside the live arena. I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of him there, especially inside of a Go Second team or something like that, right? Like, Go Second teams are very important in today's meta, and I do actually have a video coming up on that as well, so stay tuned. Let me know if there's something I'm missing about this champion, apart from the HP scaling, of course. We did test him in both scenarios, though, so I think it was perfectly fair. Let me know if you have him and where you use him. Excuse me. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.